Yeah, I'm the co-director and writer of Red on Yellow Killer Fellow. Is this working?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do I have to speak right into it, or is that okay?
That's good.
Yeah, I'm the co-director, writer of Red on Yellow Killer Fella. It's a movie that is dated in 1900s. It's sort of during a time when the outlaws were dying out, and it's loosely based on Sam Bass, who was an outlaw right outside of Austin in Round Rock, and always been a fan of the old spaghetti westerns and even the early westerns that Clint Eastwood did, like Josie Wells and High Plains Drifter, and even Dead Man. That wasn't a Clint Eastwood movie, but so we wrote this, Duane and myself, after we had a movie in Tribeca. We got together with the Weinsteins, actually, and we pitched them the idea of a western that we had, and we hadn't finished it. We hadn't even started it at the time. We just sort of had the outline, you know, and the story in our head and the dream, and so we went back. We had the motivation to write it. It took us about 6 months, and by the time we ended up pitching it back to them, Miramax had gone to Weinstein's. There's a big change, you know, just like the industry is. So we ended up getting a few investors on board and tightened up the script. And in 2012, we were ready to shoot. We got Kerry Cox and Marcus Cox, who just produced Tangerine from Sundance, which they shot on an iPhone 5. And they also produced Adult Beginners, which was at South by Southwest. Duplass Brothers executive produced both those movies. And WME is representing us right now, and we're hopefully in the middle of a transaction. I can't say anything on that, but things are looking good. But anyway, back to the story. Red on Yellow basically follows this group of outlaws who are held up in Pecos, Texas. And they had botched a train robbery job in Galveston, lost one of their guys, and now the story starts up in which they're going to have to bust him out of jail. He's working hard labor on the railroad, and then they're going to go to wherever he hid the treasure. Bad thing is he hid it in a well back in Galveston. So they have to go 500 miles, but it's a lot of money. It's $100,000 worth of gold. So that's retirement for them. They run upon sort of coincidence who we based off of an actual first sort of a sociopath serial killer on their route, and sort of from there sort of things start going down and they start to disappear, and that's where we put the horror aspect into our western. You know, it's a dark western like you know, maybe Hang 'em High or one of those old spaghetti, you know, westerns like that, but at the same time it just has a little more of the horror aspect in it, so we sort of wanted to do a hybrid there. I don't know, I just was talking. Hope you got something worthwhile. But we were lucky enough to get some great names in it, like Pepe Serna. You know, he's from Corpus Christi, but he's doing great things out in LA. He just got his movie Man from Reno. It's opening in theaters next week. And Michael Berryman from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Weird Science. I don't know, you see him all the time. And Loose Reigns, he was in 310 to Yuma. Some local actors were Arian Margot. She also has another movie here at the festival. Any questions? Yes? Yes? No? Same thing, sorry.
Why the title?
Red on Yellow Killer Fellow? Well, if you're from Texas, or I guess anywhere, and you know anything about the coral snake, you know, that's sort of like, you know, when I was a kid, my grandfather would say, you know, red on yellow killer fellow, you know, white on black, venom black, for a friend of Jack. So we had a title, Runaway Son, but then that title just fit into our movie because the way some things transpire have to do with like some poisons, you know, red on the coral snake and stuff like that. So it definitely has a meaning there. Yes, yes.
When you talk about showcasing it here in Texas, being world premiere, you know, in the state.
Right. No, I mean, couldn't be a better place to showcase it here in Dallas, since we used a lot of the crew from Austin. You know, all of our crew is from Austin. And when we shot the movie, from Marfa, Van Horn, Taliquila, right on the border of Mexico, all the way to the beaches of Corpus Christi. So Texas is a character in itself. It's just as rough and rugged as the Outlaws. We had 42 flats during our production. It was crazy. I mean, I could tell you more stuff, but I could get myself in trouble. But basically, I mean, Texas is one of the Outlaws. It's actually a character in the movie, sort of. When you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And there was no other way to do that than to just travel across Texas, and that's what we did. It's just a road trip. Western road trip.
Long road trip.
Yeah. Fear and loathing style. Yes, sir.
I understand you had some help with some of your props and everything using film from the previous Western. Did you just get to go to a big warehouse and just pick and choose things? Or?
No, you know, that's, I don't want to talk about budget too much, but we had a long pre-production, and Duane and myself really used that time to find places that sort of had a lot of props there. And we also had a great production designer, Kate Mortar and Matt Dayton. And it just so happened that a couple of the places that we went to were ready to go. A lot of reenactors. We ended up making friends with some reenactors and finding some places that they would go that was like legit, you know, setups, like a whole kitchen, a whole bar area. So we were looking for places to film in that would save us money. I mean, our production, you know, was very low. You know, we look at it and say, you're not going to do a Western for that, you know. So, and a little luck was on our side too. But got a lot of props from Lynn Moon here in town. She has a prop house, and we walked through there. It was like Toys R Us for a filmmaker, you know. I mean, she had all sorts of outfits, lots of prostitute outfits, and she seemed to go on and on about that. We just have one whorehouse scene, but it's a Western. Yes, sir. Yes.
I understand that you've worked together with Duane Graves before.
Yes.
I think it was Wild Man of Navadan.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how did that experience contribute to this, doing a different movie, and how was the collaboration, writing and directing with Mr. Graves?
With Mr. Graves? Well, we've been doing things together for about 13 years, co-directing. I mean, just numerous shorts. Head Cheese, we ended up directing a short in Slacker 2011, one of the scenes, and we just work well together. You know, Duane's very technical behind the camera, where I work with the actors a lot, and me being an actor myself, you know, I'm able to sort of get into that realm of it, get into the heads of the actors, where he can be more of a technical behind the scenes, maybe working with the DP a little more. And it just seems to work for us, you know, and especially writing, because I'll throw things out, just, you know, I'm a brainstorm. I'll throw these ideas out where Duane seems to be able to grab them and put them in some logical order. It's like a marriage, but it's not. We're both married. So. But it just works very well. And I would say Wild Man of the Navidad, I mean, we always talk about that, how like we'll never have the opportunity to make a film like that again. So we did that on $7,000 on the weekends for over 3 years, you know. And we shot for 7 months, you know. So you're talking about people change, people getting late. I mean, all sorts of. So it was a horrible experience, but we look back on it with, you know, very fond memories, and it's just we're in a different level now. You know, you get spoiled with everything you have. And we did that film with actually 4 people, so it's like the Western was sort of our Wild Man in the way that it was very low budget for what we did and what we had to work with, and it was almost like we're really not motivated unless we have a project that's like, there's no way you're going to complete that. You know, you're not going to be able to do that. And you know, sometimes in the end, maybe, you know, we do bite off more than we can chew. You know, I mean, it's trying to do a Western or a post-apocalyptic piece or something like that on you know, a stupid budget, but that's what we like to do. So I would say they're like that way, which Butcher Boys, with Kim Hinkle, you know, was a producer on that. They wrote Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was more of there was more people on the crew, more people, you know, putting in creative ideas. Where I would say Red on Yella was like Wild Man, in which me and Duane really were working together and really having our hands on a lot of different aspects of the film, you know. And just as filmmakers, we like that control.
talk about Texas as being its own character in this film. Do you have any other influences from westerns? Kind of like John Ford, who always used the landscape as an extra character.
Right, right. You know, I don't know. I grew up watching westerns with my grandfather, and he was a big, John Wayne guy. So I watched all the John Wayne movies. But I really started to get my influence when I discovered the spaghetti westerns. Just that whole lineup. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Two Wheels for Sister Sarah. So that's sort of what I looked into, and sort of what I had in my subconscious when we were writing this and when we were directing this. So if any of those influences came out, that's more where they came from. Just the landscape. I mean, we're always looking for just a nice wide shot, and we used anamorphic lenses to film this western. So it's like when you look at that lens and you're used to looking, oh shit, what am I going to do with the rest of this? How am I going to fill this up?
Right.
So it's a different process, but when you see it on the big screen, it just gives it that bend that all traditional westerns have. And so I think we were, with real wide shots and big open country shots, we were looking to emulate that, So,
Thank you, guys.
all right, hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think you might want to get a photo if you're cool with it in front of